And so you were 25 and you got into sales. And could you talk a little bit about the journey? Like, were you a great salesman right off the bat, or did you have an evolution and challenges that you faced? How did you get to the point that where you're a CEO and doing all the things you're doing? What was that journey like?
Well, I'll give you the short version of the crazy story. But at around 25, I went to the USA. I'd worked for my father in a construction business. So we manufactured construction equipment. We built a product where we had 85% market share here, and we decided to take it to the States. So I went into partnership with an incredibly talented financial guy. We moved to the USA, and 2 years later, I got a phone call on my birthday from my stepfather, thinking he was calling to wish me happy birthday. Instead of that, he was calling me to let me know that my mother had liver cancer. Wow. And about 4 weeks later, I'm back in Sydney, Australia. So I moved back from LA to Sydney. And 7 weeks later, my mother was dead. And within a 5-week period of her passing away, my stepdad got into a fight in his first social outing and put a guy into a headlock, and the guy ended up dying. So he was on a murder charge. My sister had tried to commit suicide and was in a psych hospital. Our dog got run over. My car got stolen. My wife left me. I'd cut off emotionally. I lost my faith. I decided that, God wasn't a good person. And then we got news that in the States, our biggest customer had just filed Chapter 11 after being in business for more than 100 years, a company out of Minnesota. Our joint venture partner in California that was manufacturing under license for us also filed Chapter 11. And our biggest customer had sent our product to Japan, where we had no patents, and had decided to copy it. So everything that could kind of go wrong went wrong. Sometimes people say, bad things come in threes. There was a lot more than three. And what I decided with everything going on with my family in Sydney was that I needed to stay here in Sydney and not go back to the States. And we were getting royalties from selling the business in Australia before we moved to the States. We'd got a cash payment and 12 years of royalties. Part of that agreement was that there was a non-compete. So I couldn't go back into the manufacturing industry for construction equipment. And I thought, you know what? The big thing I learned in the States is that if you cannot sell and market at a personal level, if you're not really good at that, you're nowhere as an entrepreneur. So I decided that no matter what I want to do in business in the future, I needed to go and figure out how to become competent at selling. So I got a job in the radio paging industry. This was back in the era of the very first Wall Street movie that came out with that big crazy phone, that the Gordon Gekko was carrying around. So it was the era of the very first cellular mobile phones. Radio paging was big. The ability to get a written message to people in the field. This was before text messaging was a thing. And I decided I wanted to get into B2B selling. I had huge hang-ups about the selling profession. I'd go to barbecues on the weekend and people would ask me, "Hey, Tony, what do you do for a living?" And I really struggled to spit it out. I work as a salesperson. I just couldn't bring myself to say it. I had all of these hang-ups. And for anybody who's looking at entering selling, one of the first things I'd really encourage you to think about is to be successful, we need to learn to get out of our own way. A lot of us tend to sabotage our own success. So this thing of believing in the value that you provide other people, that you are making a positive difference in their life, it is just critical. And that's why you need to select an employer and a product, service, or solution that you really believe in. It's critically important.
What a story.